I'm here today with Ted Krishak. He's from the SANDBAG Group, and they're particularly concerned with people that have mobility disability and their public transport access. How are you today, Ted?
I'm well, thanks. Chris.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about why this group was formed and what's one of the major concerns at the moment.
Okay, so SANDBAG is the Seniors in Disabled Bus Action Group, and we were formed because Transperth, or the PTA, were making changes to our local area, to the bus network in our local area, in particular bus route 15, which resulted in a gap of coverage and lack of access, or less access, for particularly people with mobility disabilities, so people in wheelchairs, older people with walking sticks, and just people like that.
Is your organisation able to speak to that advisor and give him some voice for the people in order for them to reach the ministers and represent that?
Yes, well, on this particular issue, one of the reasons why we formed was because it was hard to get any action from any of the other disability or seniors bodies, which are well established, partly because for example, People with Disabilities WA, I believe, is funded by the government, and usually when that happens there's a bit of a fear of funding cutbacks, so they tread a fine line between trying to lobby government on certain issues and actually pulling their head in, basically.
It's hard to represent the people's voice without coming across that they're kind of lobbying or anti some of the government decisions.
Yeah, and the problem with this issue of mobility, disability and access to public transport is that it's sort of a little bit of an abstract issue in many people's minds. Obviously not to the people that are affected, because they have to daily struggle to try and get to public transport or make their way around, and often they'll end up getting lifts or paying for taxis and such like. And that's a huge impost on top of their disability.
So what are some of the solutions that you propose?
Well, Australia's a signatory to the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. That was done about 10 years ago. We're coming up to the anniversary of that. We've just had International Day of People with Disabilities. I think it was Monday. Recently, or not that long ago, I think there was a Seniors Week, and on the 10th is Human Rights Day. The solutions need to be driven by the government based on their obligations under the UN Convention. And under the UN Convention and subsequent documents that have been put forward by the Australian government, there's this whole of journey approach that they talk about. And this is an international approach that's been taken by public transport bodies throughout the world. And the whole of journey approach looks at a disabled person's journey from the front door of their house or wherever they are, right up to the bus stop and then further on. So it covers the whole journey, because you just can't say, all right, well, you get to the bus stop and then we'll look after you from there. It's got to be right from the beginning. We will look after you from the whole way. And that's what the convention talks about.
And that makes complete sense. Ted, thanks so much for your time and for being a voice for people with mobility disability. Well done.
Thank you, Bess.
If you or someone close to you has a concern with regards to mobility disability and public transportation, you have a contact here. Where's the best place to go, Ted?
Well, we've got all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. We've got an email address, which is 15sandbag@gmail.com.
That's probably one of the good starting points. Ted, thanks again for your time.
Yep, thank you, Bess.
I'm Bas Tadros for Undercurrent.